Hey friends, this is Mike Videopunk from the Mighty Videopunks, Queens, New York. And here I am at 20 Alpha, my favorite DIY space in all of Hong Kong. There's been sort of two rounds of interest in Serial Experiments Lain. There was like the initial release when it was released on VHS and when it aired, and there were primarily 4 CDs that were released, Japan exclusive. There was like the Cyberia mix 1 and 2, where it was sort of dance music from the series and dance and interpretations of bits of score, very much in the world of Serial Experiments Lain. And then there was an OST of a lot of the incidental music, and then there was this thing called the bootleg. And bootleg was a collection of ambient music from the show, like sort of like BGM, not necessarily OST stuff. And when I was sort of like looking for the source material, because I didn't want to just rip right from the TV show, I wanted to see like what OST stuff was available. I discovered this bootleg thing and I was like, oh, this is really, really cool. So I pulled it from archive.org, loaded it up on my phone, and I heard the opening piano riff to the piece that I flipped. Just instantly, like, I heard where all the chops were, and I just sort of like dived in. Like, I do all of my production and all of my performing on the Roland MC-707. And what I've been doing lately is loading source material on my phone, and then there's like a USB port so you can play things direct in, and like sampling from YouTube or sampling from VLC or Apple Music or whatever. So I was able to just like sample this BGM directly into the 707, chop it up, and just start throwing breaks at it till I had what I needed. Let's see here. So that's the full loop. And there's like really 2 ways to do chops. And a chop is when you take a sample and you break it up into sort of components so you can trigger them separately. The way that I typically chop melodic things and drums is I'll leave the end point all the way at the end of the sample, and I'll nudge the start point. So things they'll sort of hang over. Yeah. This is the first part of the tune. And I have it laid out really simply. So that's the piano on track 1. This is just bass kicks, and then this is drums. I took that loop with the drums and the piano, and I chopped it super tightly. It's like a pretty standard technique for people with samplers to do, but it's new to me. And it was sort of an aha moment when I learned that I could like resample, and I was like, oh, now I can get real weird with it. And I really leaned into it on this remix a whole bunch. Yeah, and then that's sampled dialogue from the TV show. There's a scene where Lain's dad sort of pops his head in after he's given Lain the Navi, and it's like kind of taken over her life and taken over her room, but before she's like flooded the house with coolant, and before it's like becoming a problem and like stressing the power grid in the neighborhood. And he kind of peeks his head in and he's like, hey, you know, things on the internet can't hurt you because nothing on the internet's real, right? And up to this point in Lain's sort of character arc, she's been like very meek and very sort of withdrawn. And this is the first time that she's really sort of directly engaged with her parents. And it's like it's like kind of a funny scene, but it's super essential to that character's development, and sort of like as more things are revealed about that relationship. Yeah, I use this point to sort of like motivate like a key change, and like I'm like not a classically trained musician by any stretch of the imagination. I literally just like bang on this thing until it makes interesting sounds that I like. But every once in a while, opportunities present themselves where I'm like, oh, hey, this is what someone that knows what they're doing would do. And I love jungle. I will always love jungle. But really core to my sort of development as a human being was access to like a lot of like really truly great footwork people, and just like being constantly sort of inspired by those folks and their tenacity and sort of like the way that they just got down on their production techniques. There's like a famous video of DJ Rashad in Chicago basically like making the nastiest footwork tune you've ever heard in like 7 minutes while rolling a blunt one-handed. Like just does not give a shit. Like everyone's playing like Xbox behind him, and he's just like tapping things, and he knows what it's doing. Like he doesn't have to hear it out loud. He's like, cool, like here's the sound I need, here's the programming, and then like literally like the end of the video is just him hitting start, and it's just so like when I decided to start producing specifically in hardware, like that video was something I studied, where I was just like, this is like very obviously attainable and has been attainable for like 20 years. I think it's kind of funny that like footwork stuff keeps creeping in. So like this is kind of like a footworky jungle section. And like, yeah, there's like a lot of transference between those two styles of music. But yeah, that sort of stuttered kick is like it's very Chicago.
What's your favorite jungle track?
Oh, ever? I think Sunrise by Flynn and Flora. They were right on the cusp between like what's jungle, what's drum and bass. I think my goal as a dork with a drum machine is to someday make a track that gives me chills the way that Sunrise does and will.